So a couple of weeks ago, actually a few, I received my copy of Nuts and Bolts, and in there was an article about learning Morse code with a Morse32. Being a new amateur radio operator, got my license in May. Of course, no code requirements, but I do want to learn the code, so I said I ordered one up. I ordered it on the 21st of October, and on the 31st of October, a mere 10 days later, there it is. So I thought I'd do a video on the box opening and subsequent assembly of this little puppy. So let's take a look. It's came pretty good shape. I did slice the tape open because I didn't want to use a sharp object while it was on camera. Get nervous. All right. So it's packed pretty well. I guess that's just some packing. Oh, let's see. We've got display. Oh yeah. Well, there's the processor and the display, antenna, and looks like a power wire in there. Okay. All right. What do we got here? Bag of parts. Ubiquitous bag of parts. Let's take a look at what we got in here. All right. Oh yeah, headers, nice, and the keys, I assume they're touch-sensitive keys, speaker, jacks, oh yeah, a bunch of jacks, rotary encoder. These are fun. If you ever had to program one into a system, they are fun to work with. A push button, a pot, and another jack, and a knob. Okay, and let's see, what else do we have in here? And it looks like this is the housing and antenna. Feet, antenna, and very nicely done. Etched plexiglass, the antenna. We'll put this together later. All right, set that aside. And what do we got here? There we go. This is the heart. This is it. Main PCB. Oh, beautiful work. And all the SMT, surface mount stuff, is already on board. So those of you who fear doing surface mount, have no fear. This doesn't require any surface mount activity. I have done a great deal, and I enjoy it, but this looks like well done. Nice PCB, pretty laid out, and I like the black coating on there, the resist, if you will. So, and the last but not least in here is the quick start guide. Okay, and it tells us we need to go online to get the user's manual and the guide for assembly. And it tells us where to go. So, we get, here's the packing list. PCB, bag with components, Helen's 32 board, yada yada, pre-programmed. Okay. Looks like we've got it. Well, I'm not going to go through all that. We'll find out quick enough if we don't. Okay. So now I'll go online and take a look, and we'll start this assembly. Okay. We've got the instructions up on the PC, and they want the 4 jacks installed. So we'll go ahead and find out if we can put the 4 jacks in the right spot. Soldering iron up. There's one. I'm going to fit them in there first. I have 2. That's not the right one. This looks like the right one. Yep, 3, 4. Okay, the 4 jacks. That's a good poker hand, wouldn't it? Okay, we got 4 jacks. And of course the trick here is to get them soldered in when you turn the board upside down to do it, of course, it's going to fall out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over here and took the one to the highest profile out, and there we go. The trick of doing something like this, of course, is to tack it in with one lead at least, and then put some pressure on it, straighten it out, and go from there. All right, so we'll go with this one first. Here we go, soldering iron is coming up. And the instructions indicate that you should not use lead-free solder. And I couldn't agree more. I've had very, mixed results using lead-free solder. It sounds great, but the results are tenuous at best. So you notice I'm just tacking these in before I get to the real putting them in. So I'm not too worried about alignment or anything with this tack job. All right, so now I've got the 4 of them tacked in there. So now I take each one and I will just heat up the tack and press it in. Now we know it's level and intimate with the board. Okay, we'll do this one. And if you didn't have them level when you put them in there, you'll feel it move and level itself out with the board. And it's a good feeling. All right, and this jack. Okay, the 4 jacks are there. Now we go back and just solder them up. And when you're soldering, I know some of you guys have soldered thousands and tens of thousands of solder jobs. But for the newbies out there, there's one, you hope. Soldering is just a skill. It's not particularly a talent, but it's a skill that's learnable. And the key, of course, is using the solder and the soldering iron the right way. And keep in mind, the purpose of the soldering iron is not, as some people think, to melt the solder. The purpose of the soldering iron is to heat the work up so it melts the solder. You see me put a little bit of solder in there, and that gets me more heat transfer to the joint. But then you watch the solder flow, pull the solder away, count a couple, 2 seconds, and then pull the soldering iron off. Kabang. And when you do this on the, you want to make sure you don't, the first one you solder on a part is not the same one you tacked it with, because you just undo your, I've done it. You go back, you get on a roll, start talking like I'm talking, and you end up soldering the first connection and the part comes loose. Okay. And generally speaking, if you ever go back to touch up a solder connection, you always want to put a touch more solder in there. And keep your soldering iron tip kind of clean. Okay, so we've got those in there. Sliding switch and trimmer resistor. Okay, so we'll get the trimmer resistor, a little bitty thing. And it goes in, I'm sure it goes in here somewhere. There's a nice diagram. The documentation is very nice. And there's a nice picture of where all these components go. And right on here someplace, this part goes. I'm going to find it. All right, we'll do it by elimination here in a minute. Here's the switch mentioned. Okay, nice. So again, I'm just going to try and get it so that I can tack one lead of the switch, and then, boom. Now the switch is leveled, and now I'll solder the other 2 connections. I'm using a Weller soldering iron, which is my favorite. It's got a temperature dial on the main box. It's a WES51, and I have used it for a long time, and I've bought several over the years, and I've never been disappointed in them. All right, this is the rotary encoder, and it snaps in, so I don't have to worry about tacking that puppy in because it's in there. All right, so we'll just solder it up. Again, boy. Now I have to say, the circuit board itself is a little reluctant to take the solder, just a little bit. So I just have to look closer to make sure that the solder actually flows down into the joint, like that one. It's coming along fine. You notice I pull the solder off, leave the soldering iron on there. Watch it flow and then off. You want those nice rounded shiny connections. Some of these larger connections take a lot of heat. Boom. All right, that came out pretty good. Now, all right, what else we got here? We got the switch here, and this looks like it'll go oxygen out, R2. Oh, there's the resistor. Okay, there we are, right there. Now this thing has got 3 leads, and it will not matter which way we put it in. It just doesn't matter. Just because you got to get it in the hole. All 3 holes. There we go. Come on, you can do this. You can do this. Ow. All right. Patience. It's a virtue, not a skill, not a talent. It's a virtue. Sometimes I lack in that virtue. Other times, you just get in a hurry. Ooh-wee. It'll go in there. It knows it wants to. It just... Well, there it is. Well, there it is. All right. Okay. All right, I bend those leads over just a little bit, hold it in place, and then we'll solder it in. I'm working here. I don't know if I got that first one in there. The challenge here is that when they laid the PC board out, they didn't make the lands, that's the shiny pieces that we can see on the PCB, really large. So it's a little hard to get the connections, the thermal connection, heat transfer down there. That's how that looks. That looks okay. We'll trim it off right now. Good tools. You got to have a good pair of cutters. And the better the cutters, the further the pieces will fly when you cut, so be careful. All right, so we've got making great progress here. What else we got here? We've got, shoot, we're running out of parts. Okay, so, yeah. Okay, so it wants to make sure all the parts are flush with the board. They are. And now we'll take the processor, which is, and the little OLED display. It has the header pins on it. Now you could actually just go in there and drop that in there, but wisely, the designer has provided some headers. Now you might think, well, we just put the headers in there and solder the headers in, and then, no, that's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is put the headers on the part, thusly. A lot of insertion force, but just go carefully. A little goo on that pin. And then, of course, All right. All right. So now we have the headers. When we mount this, we want to make sure that this micro USB connector is facing out. He points that out correctly in the instructions, of course, clearly. You want to make sure that's the case. All right. Now we've got the part in there and mounted, and the headers are set. They're all lined up. And this is why you put the headers on the piece, then into the board. Otherwise, you could end up giving the headers a little cattywampus. That's a southern term. Crooked. And that wouldn't work well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do my tack thing here. I'm going to tack one pin here. Notice I'm pushing down on the board, and tack a pin here. And then I'm going to go to the other end and do the same thing. Now, when I said make sure you mount that processor board, the one with the display, with the little connector on the outside, of course you can always, if you happen to put it in backwards, you just pull it out and reverse it in the socket. Nothing, no loss. But it's not going to work well if you don't put it in there right. All right, now I'm just going down and solder this. And sometimes when I do these, I use the drag method. You notice if you use good solder and in the right amount of heat, there's a bridge there. Sometimes it works really well, and other times you just got to look closely. But the surface tension of the solder will tend to open up. I didn't get that one. Don't worry about bridging right at the moment. What I want to try and do with them, because I mentioned earlier that these little headers are a little small. So, shoot. All right, this piece of on there. All right, now one bridge gone. All right, has that got them all? It looks like it. Now we do the other side. I truthfully did try to come up with get this camera set up so that I could speed through this. You wouldn't have to suffer through me soldering all these connections. But I wasn't able to actually find the control for that reasonable time. Being this is the first video I've done, then maybe if I get any positive feedback at all, and I do another one, I'll figure out how to do it. Oh, it's walking across here. Now, I do have a board holder, but being that this board is being flipped over and over so much, this is just as easy as trying to use a board holder. Okay, so that's in there, that's in there. So now, they talk about putting a battery in here, and there's none provided. However, I happen to have one here that I don't know if it'll actually work in here. Nope, it's too big. Let's see. Go in there. Oh, look at that. It does go. Well, that's pretty slick. Well, heck, that's what I'll do. Okay. Now, what I want to do is pull this off of here because I violated the sequence. But those headers are pretty good. They provide a power cable for, there it is. How about that? And it's an itty bitty thing, not very large either. So we put it in, and they caution you when you put this in here, don't get real ham-fisted. Oops, ham-fisted. We're all ham-fisted because we're hams, but they don't want you to strong-arm it in there. So it is keyed. It'll only go one way. There's a little keyway there, but the real tip-off here is the well, I don't know. Is it the right one? Is it the right connector? Looks like. Now they show it in the picture with the red this way. So well, there it is. All right. Yep. So that's in there. And what the you noticed I had my thumb on the back side of this connector. It was kind of an intuitive thing, but they specifically point that out for you so that you don't get too carried away. All right. Okay, so what they want us to do here is take these red and black ESP32. They want us to go through. You see the holes? Red wire, black wire. So they got these nicely done. They put put the wires through the open holes. Now what I'm going to do here is this. Okay. Give us a little slack here. All right, I'm not going to put it all the way in. And now what we'll do is they want you to take this and cut these wires. And you don't want to get these backwards. They caution you correctly that to get those backwards, you are going to be in trouble. And so now we want to trim off a little bit of the wire. And I have this handy tool that I can't recommend too highly. The Capri. It's Capri. Not very expensive. Got it at Amazon. I think like $12, $13. And look at that. You can now. For years I've been trimming with dikes and all, and that works, and it works well. But sometimes you get in tight cases like this. You can't get enough pull on the wire. So those work well. So I'm going to tin these wires because I stick them through the hole here. And the reason they brought this through the hole and then soldered is it provides a strain relief for the wire. It's good heads-up work because you'll end up, otherwise you can have issues with wire just soldered straight in the board. Sometimes it'll give you, over time, it'll just fatigue and wear, and you get problems. So we solder the black wire, and then we'll solder the red wire without trying not to melt the black wire. All right. So I'm going to pull a little bit of the wire back. Now they do this way, and then okay. All right. So now we've got the power of that, and the battery itself. Will it still slip in here? Yep. And so they've given us another connector here, but will it fit this battery? This battery I happen to have it from a RC model, and it doesn't look like that connector is going to work. It's not their problem. This is my problem. And I just happen to have this battery. So I guess I'm not going to use the battery right now. The battery is really not really required. It's only if you want to go portable and run this thing. So, not going to use that right now. All right. So I've got this switch left to put in. All right. So the switch will go SW2. The switch apparently will go, it's a momentary. Will it go? Yep, it'll go 2 ways, not 4 ways. So it doesn't matter which way you put it in. It's a momentary. It'll make the contacts, and that's it. Again, I'm going to kind of balance this up, put a little heat on there, and tack it in. Okay, so it's tacked in. Looks like it's pretty level, but we'll just make sure. And they tell you to be sure you get this stuff right because they have a lovely machined plastic case for this thing. And if you don't get the stuff in there right, the holes won't line up in the case and nobody will be happy. Well, I'll be happy because I won't know. But you might not be happy, and that's important. Okay. Well, okay, we got the speaker here, and this goes in here. All right, they say this for last, and the reason is obvious. All this wiring and everything in there, and putting the parts with something this tall, you have more of a problem. So what you want to work with is you want to put the lowest components in first and work your way up. It just makes it easier. It's just logistics. It's certainly not technical. All right, so that snaps in. That's pretty easy to deal with. Just 2 connections, and we're good. Oh boy, we're having fun now. All right. Now, I see over here I have some jumpers or something. And nothing to go in there, so. Now these are the paddle keys. I don't know if we put those in yet. All right. Okay. I'm looking at the instructions, the cheat sheet. Now they want you to put the paddle keys in now. Now you'll see these, the paddle keys have this little yellow tape. It's, I can't forget, I'll think of it in a minute what it is. Keptic, something. It's all relative to pick and place machines and the like. That's how this thing is put together. It's automated. So you want to pull that out of there. There, and just throw it away. And then these keys are interchangeable. One goes there, and one goes here. And I'm guessing they're touch sensitive, so that's the way it's going. I won't be using this that way. I've got myself a nice key, and it was donated by a good friend, and I will give him credit in a minute. But, so there we are, we've got that. Now, if you ordered it with the case, which of course I did since the case is right here, I'm going to go to the assembly of the case. Let's see what we've got. All right, we'll set that right there. By the way, this is a non-conductive pad, which truthfully I do not have grounded, but I don't have any trouble with static down here. All right, so we've got this is plexiglass or Lexan or acrylic. So the key sometimes is getting this plastic covering off is a good nail. There's one. This is the funnest stuff. I love this. All right. Yeah, just didn't know who was dealing with it. It's coming off. And now they said there's only going to be one on here because they've etched it on the back, laser etched it. And if they tried to laser etch it with that plastic on it, with this plastic coating, it would not have been pretty. Well, this is gorgeous. Very nice. Okay. Get rid of this stuff. All right, now they tell me what they want me to do here is grab the antenna connector, and put it through the hole. So this is obviously the top, and the antenna connector is over here. So it's going to go in from the bottom. All right, nut and bolt and lock washer. This is where you always get into controversy. So I'm going to put that lock washer on the bottom, underneath. And then some people say, oh, the lock washer goes in the top. And my position's always been, it goes down between the piece and the surface to keep the bottom from turning, because we got a lock washer on the top. Lock washer. And nut, because sometimes you just feel like a nut. All right. All right, we'll tighten that up. It's a handy toolbox and pull out a little pair. All right, that's it. All right. Okay. Now we mount the top plate with its standoffs. All right. This is always fun, dealing with standoffs and screws. However, this is what makes the project snap to the enclosure. It's always nice to have. All right. Oh boy. Okay, we got your basic feet, and that's it. That's the wire I cut off. And these must be Allen heads. Sure enough. And to give an Allen head screw. Allen's wrench. All right, so we're going to put these 4 pieces here. And now these are the standoffs with the throughs on it. Yep. Because what we're going to do is end up putting the PCB in here. Okay, so we got 4 of these to mount. Okay, and not that one. Not that one. There we are. Okay. They're all plastic, so the nylon. You don't want to try and over torque these puppies. All right. So we've got that. Got the 4 of them there. I'm just going to finger tighten them. I'm not going to try and, yeah, geez, that was the wrong one because it had a screw in it. And I thought that was the one with the, there it is, over there. All right. Okay. So what they expect us to do now is I'll put the knob on here. And this red knob here. Is there a... No, it just goes on there. Okay. And off. So we have this, we'll put the part in and take that off. I always hate having those plastic. So many times I go into places and I see the guy's got a radio there, it's a couple years old, still got the plastic on the cover. And I always ask why. Well, I want to keep the cover looking good. I said, well, it looks like heck, for all you own it. And then next thing you know, that plastic won't peel off, and I always peel the plastic off. That's my motto. Okay, so it's got a place for this is a UFL type connector, and they are a pain, but we'll put it on. By the way, these UFL connectors, believe it or not, are designed for 3 insertions and removals, because they figure nobody is ever going to do that more than once or twice. And so they rate them for 3 times. I've done this dozens of times with these type of connectors, but that's what they say. Actually, I don't know if this is a UFL. It's awfully smaller than a UFL. Oh, did you hear that? It snapped on there, just like it's supposed to. All right, so my guess is this must have to go on here. Boy. I see what I did? How many of you caught that one? I stuck that in there backwards. That's pretty good. There we go. All right. And so with all of that, what I did was now I have my red and black leads are too short. So I'm going to pull this off of here. And I'm going to put some wire back on there and fix it. I'll be back in a minute with it all fixed. Okay, we're back through the magic of a wire stretcher. Actually not. A little bit of heat shrink and the wires that I'd cut off. I will, it's embarrassing. But anyway, that's the way it is. I will try and put it in there correctly this time. That's why this is put together so nicely. It wouldn't even let me put it together wrong, because when I went to actually do it all, it wouldn't go fit. So there you are. So now I just have to do what I did before. And red wire through the red hole. Red wire through the red hole. Come on, buddy. All right, there's one. And the black through the black. Now I hear you out. I know what you're thinking of. He's got those holes soldered up. How's he gonna get the wire through the hole to solder them? That's a valid question. But through the miracle of a toothpick, wooden toothpicks. So what I'm going to do here is take a little excess solder off of there, and then I'll show you how I do this. Those are small holes, though. This may not work. But usually I can get this soldering, I can get the wood to go through there, and As you know, wood doesn't solder really well, so I know it's a poor craftsman who blames his tools, but because of this video, the light I'm using isn't that good for my eyes. So I'm going to do it this way. What the heck? All right, a little wire there, a little wire there, and the old standard strip technique I use. All right, the key of stripping wires with dikes is make sure that the tapered end is towards the long wire. And this, as you push away, gently squeezing it, it'll take the wire and push and cut it off. And after a while, you get pretty good at it. But at first, you'll end up shortening some wires, I guarantee it. But practice over time, it's as quick as anything. Key, of course, is being able to hold on to the wire for the moment. All right, so now I'm going to repair my black wire. It's important to get these on there and get them on there right, because this is the primary power feed to the ESP32. And the wire does get warm when you solder it. Ow. Okay, so now maybe I can actually put this puppy together. It's looking better. Okay. Now the knob came off of there, but now this is where you find out if you got everything mounted in there correctly, because if you don't, this is where things won't go together. But looking to me like, oh, we're pretty close to having everything correct here. Push back on something. Something pushing back. That knob fell off, but I can get that knob on there. Okay, well, I'm going to do it this way. It keeps wanting to slip off of there. So what I'm going to do here is all right. Okay, so you see what I did? I did this incorrectly, because what they wanted me to do, apparently, is to use these here and then these into there. So that's what I have to do. I misread that, thinking these were just threaded, but they're not. Both sides, they're studs. So again, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, well, theoretically, that didn't even take a minute. Just unscrew the old ones and screw the other ones on. It was easy enough to get out of that. So what I'm going to use here is there are 4 of these, and these will go in here like that. 1. There, it was a little tight on that end, but it didn't require much force at all. I mean, hardly. Just had to line it up a little better. All right. 2. 3, 4. Wow. All right, just the right number of parts. Now, being they're just nylon, you can get a nut driver out here and tighten them up if you like, but I just use by hand. Alrighty, and then what we have the base plate will go here, and they got yep. So okay, they say use these screws. Yes. So there is a right way and a wrong way to put this on there, as I just discovered. This is just to see if you guys were paying attention. It's not symmetrical. That's what we call asymmetrical. Oh, this is going together. I've got 4 spacers left over here. Now, I will endeavor to find out why I have 4 spacers left over. I always worry about having extra parts. Maybe because generally speaking, they just don't sew stuff in there for kicks. But in my humble opinion, this thing looks like it's pretty much complete. Okay, so I knocked off one of the key switches, so that's okay. And the knob. Okay, and they give us 4 feet. Well, if you're metric, I guess it's be a meet. No, it's still 4 feet. This is my attempt at humor. We'll put the 4 feet down there next to the screws. They are longer than the screw head, so this is good. They're taller than the screw head, so they'll protect your wife's kitchen table when you're sitting out there practicing your code. You don't have to worry about scratching up the table. Well, there it is. And parts left over. Well, I got those 4 spacers. I don't know what those are for. And an antenna, which I can figure that goes right there. All right. There it is. Well, hot darn. Now, if I turn it on, nothing's going to happen because there is no power. So, well, I'm going to take one quick look down here, make sure I didn't bridge any of those connections. That looks pretty good to me. The black and the red, the ESP32 wires are correct. And the red and the black hole. Okay. There's not much else you can get wrong with this thing. So, all right, so it's got a micro USB cable. I have one of them around here. I just happen to have one laying right here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to bring this around. It's turned off at the moment. And ooh, we got power. Look at that. It even came up. It's got everything. And so now what we're going to do is just we'll play with it. There you are. A Morse32. Now the user manual is online. and that will be my next stop. And we'll see how we, maybe I'll see you online sometime, meet you on the air sometime. KX4 Sierra Bravo, out for now, and telling me I'm not talking to it correctly, but that's okay. Thanks for watching, and next time, 73s.